Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Danu, for having me here.
Cheers, buddy.
And for giving me the one shot on my reel. That's worth looking at.
I love that. Last night, Abhishek was like, saw your shot. He's like, man, that is so juicy, man. I really missed these details in my shot. Like, yeah, you're actually still animating the shot. You're going to bring the similar details on your shot as well, Don't worry. He just like, he didn't see that probably before, I think. He didn't give attention.
I saw it, but I saw it again and again, like, very closely. And I saw all those details. And when he speaks, his lungs actually flexes according to what he's talking. And those things are so connected,
Yeah, I'm going to talk about all of that stuff and the process about those.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your presentation.
So I hope it helps. I've written down some notes and stuff, so we'll see. Yeah, so hi, everyone. I'm Ryan. I'm not in the VFX industry like CAW, but I am in games. I've been in games for the past 7 years now. I started my career in TV for 1 year before that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, thanks CAW. He did such a fantastic job. In fact, he pointed out so many things that just slipped my mind. And also so many things that I wanted to talk about, but he already covered it in such good detail. So thanks for that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why I ended up at CAW. Basically, I knew I wanted to do something with creatures. It was something I've never tried before. I only worked with like bipeds, and I studied at Animation Mentor. So that's where like I started my animation career. So that gave me a strong basics and foundation in animation. And my goal in animation is to try and work in all sectors. So I've already done TV, I've done games, and my eventual goal is to, maybe try VFX, feature films. It's always a learning experience. But my main goal was to do something with creatures. It was something I've never tried before. And one thing, of course, I found out about CAW from seeing all these amazing shots on LinkedIn. It was no surprise. I'm sure that's how all of you also found out about CAW. It was just like every shot had this level of detail. I was like, whoa, how is Danu doing this? Did he finally invent the animate button that we've been all hoping for?
Join CAW, you get awesome buttons.
Yeah, you join CAW. There's a secret animate button. You just click on it, and no, I'm kidding. It's just pure hard work, nothing else. So I did know about CAW, and like Danu said, I contacted him, and what's important is that you don't just enroll in his course. He takes the time to speak with you. He wants to find out what you're trying to get out of this course, and that was important for me because, like Kadal said, we work full time. It was important that I have time to study and learn, but at the same time, I had to focus on my job, and that's where Danu is really flexible. You can like you're doing a workshop with him, it's got its flow, but you can also tailor things around what you're trying to learn, what you're trying to focus on. And I came to CAW already knowing what I wanted to do. So, and I do suggest this, that if you're joining a workshop, is try to take a week or two before to think about what you're trying to achieve from this workshop. Like what kind of creature would you want to work on? Are you trying to learn a flying creature? Are you trying to just learn a quadruped? It's important that because Danu is always pushing you in the right direction, but you got to have a goal, and he needs to understand that goal so that he can push you in that correct direction.
Very true. Good one.
And I knew that I wanted to learn creatures, but there's a lot of very talented animators out there in the world. I'm sure all of you are also very talented animators. And the thing was, I was like, okay, I know I can achieve a creature shot, but I need to to do one step ahead. And that's when I said I want to do a creature that's talking, you know, because it's not just about finding reference, but it's also pushing you out of your comfort zone. You have to do the facial, you have to make it like realistic enough for humans to connect with it. When you have an audience, they want to feel like, okay, that's realistic, you know, that makes sense, because it's not normal for a creature to talk, right? So the thing was, I'd already found a dialogue line that I really liked. I'd already in my mind planned out what I wanted to do with this dialogue. I'd found a bunch of video references that were in line with what I was imagining. And what I needed was to share my idea with Danu, and then, you know, he guides me in the right direction. And this is exactly what he did. So I'm just gonna share my screen now. So I'm gonna show you my first video reference, which was what I had planned and imagined even before I started with CAW. This was what I showed to Danu when he had that first conversation with me. And it's important to know that when you join the workshop, Danu gives you time before the workshop even starts to plan everything out. He'll give you some feedback sessions. He'll give you offline reviews. He'll talk to you. He'll make sure your idea is concrete before you start. And this is something I learned even before I joined CAW, is don't start animating without a concrete idea, because, you know, it might be a nice animation, but if it has no, like Kato said, if it's not selling the narrative behind it, it doesn't have to be like some mind-blowing story behind it, but it needs to have some context. You know, there needs to be some motivation for this character. So take your time with planning. Don't try to rush into, you know, animating or like finishing your shot. Danu's going to give you the time to polish the heck out of it. So he never leaves you halfway, or at any point. He's going to make sure your shot's done. So don't worry about that. I don't know, does the audio play through the screen share? All right, so getting back super quick, this is my first video reference. Basically, I found a bunch of different clips. My idea was to get a bit of different mechanics of the tiger. I had to go with the tiger because since I wanted to do a talking tiger or leopard or whatever, there was only one rig, which was the saber-tooth rig by Kyle. And that was the only one where I could do facial animation with. So yeah, so I was trying to find something that would have a little bit of like tiger mechanics, right from like a jump to slowing down into a walk, into sitting down, and, you know, maybe a close up finally for the facial animation. So yeah, let's take a look.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
Yeah, and the thing with this is I showed it to Danu, and he started giving me feedback on this. I think the mistake I was making was I was trying to do different body mechanics and throw in a line on top without taking into account that we need to consider the line and how the tiger or leopard is going to behave to this line. So Danu started giving me feedback. He wanted to explore different jumps, etc. And also, instead of sitting, he said it would be better to do a line down into the towards the end. So this was the next video reference.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
Also, we were trying to find different close-ups for the tiger because it was important that we get, you know, the head turn to feel more cat-like than like a human just looking to the side. So I'm just going to play multiple video references. We kept exploring different ideas.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone. Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
So the idea with this one was to sort of do like he jumps up on a rock. It was a bit of a smaller jump, a bit more subtle. He comes to a stop and then, you know, he starts talking. I think at this point, Danu was trying to get me to phase out of having this jump because he said it was not important to the dialogue. It would just be mechanics, you know, but not helping the dialogue in any way. And I think I finally understood what he was trying to go for. And this is the final reference, which got approved and what we went with.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
So yeah, so this was the one we went with. It was a bit more subtle. It had all the mechanics we needed. It had by changing to this clip, we ended up getting some subtle accents and stuff on the head, which were already going well with the dialogue. And yeah, this was the time where Danu said I can start working with the rig and exploring it. So we also did a couple of post tests. I didn't actually make any videos of the post tests, but it was important to see if the rig could. I'm just going to mute this for now. It was important to see if the rig could do poses like this, because this part was the most complicated mechanics in the shot versus just the walking and stuff. So yeah, so we did a couple of post tests to try out. We also did like post tests on the face to make sure that, you know, we can do a dialogue with this rig. And once we were sure about that, I had already tried out the rig before, so I didn't do a full rig test the way Cadel did. And but I do recommend that, because since I'd already tried out the rig and tried to do a slight walk cycle or something, in the first session with Danu, before I started blocking, I had so many questions on which were the right controls to use. So the most important thing is when you're doing a creature, there's the main COG control, and then there's your chest and your hips or butt controller. And the main thing is, if you try to use your COG for everything, like, you know, all rotations and translations, you're most likely going to have a lot of mess ups. And I'd made this mistake from my previous testing, and that's where Danu corrected me. He said use it only for forward translation and maybe some up and down, or maybe not even up and down. Correct me if I'm wrong, Danu. You said not to use it so much on Y, right?
Yeah. Y rotation is good, but not up and down. Yeah, no translation. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just used it for forward translation, and when the character was turning, we used it for the turning, and that's about it. So the main COG just was, I think, on one or two translations and one rotation, nothing else. And this made my life so much easier. So it was important that you do this rig test, because also there's a lot of hidden controls that you have to turn on. Later you will realize this, because like for the jiggles and stuff like that, you're going to need these extra controls. So yeah, definitely do the rig test. Moving on to the next part, I'm gonna show my blocking, and this is basically I'm gonna show different versions. It's just my progress. This is like my blocking and spline version. I call this the mechanics part, because that is what we focused on for weeks. And what's important in this stage is Danu makes you follow the reference closely, but don't get me wrong, it's not copying the reference, because you're looking at a reference of like multiple different types of tigers stitched together. It's important to understand that you need to get the correct posing and you know, incorporate it in your rig so that it looks realistic on your rig. So you're trying to get the entire essence of that reference to look realistic on your rig, but not copy everything. Because sometimes your reference might give you, like, a lot of times I would try to copy the curve perfectly here, and I would get something that looked a bit weird, you know. So it's important to understand what your rig is capable of doing. And of course, Danu is there to guide you with that. Like sometimes you push something a bit too far or a bit too little, and he'll be like, no, you know, this is the essence you're trying to get. One important thing I try to do is when I look at my reference when I'm blocking, and this might help others as well, is what I do is I will draw a line here, or you know, if I can see the spine, I will draw a line on the spine, and this gives me an idea of what the rotations are going to be. Because when you're using, say, your chest control here, and you press rotation, then you that circle you get will give you the exact rotations you're trying to get over here. So I try to draw a line like going through here, and then, you know, you can see what your control should necessarily do. It's just my way of working. You know,
definitely it's a really good tip actually. Visualizing that is really helps actually in the MyFL. Yeah, very good.
So I do the same thing for this control, the chest, and then the in between, and then also for the head. You know, you can see the line of the head, and when you turn on your rotation control, you'll be able to get almost the exact rotation, because you know you're pretty much drawing out your control there.
True. That's a really good tip, Ryan. Thank you. That's a nice one.
No worries. So yeah, this is my first blocking. Don't judge.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
You're complete, you know, so you already animate jiggle controls on top of it already in the blocking itself.
Yeah, so at this stage, I was just trying to get in some poses, get in a sense. It was more like just selling the idea here. In this version, we were still trying to explore the camera. I also put in a texture because it's important that when you have jiggles and stuff, when you have a texture, you can see what's happening. The thing is, the skin of a creature is always moving on top of the muscles, and you need to be able to see this. If you just have a plain grayscale, it depends on your final lighting, but it may not sell as well as if you have some texture. This is not even a great texture, but you know, it helped me to see what I was animating. So this is a pass where I was still blocking further, just adding in more poses, in betweens, and also exploring camera here.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
So this pass was a bit more detailed, added all the in-betweens and stuff. What was important was, at this stage, I'm still following the reference, just trying to get all the details I can out of there, get the mechanics right. Like CAW said, I submitted my play blast from all directions, and don't try to fool Danu, because it doesn't happen. You can't fool him. I remember in my first or second week, I forgot my front view was not looking that great, and I was like, I can skip sending him the front view, and he was like, Ryan, I don't see your front view. And he pointed out 10 things that could already be wrong from the front view. And then the next week, I submitted my front view, and he was like, you see, I told you all your weights are off here. So there's no fooling him. Yeah, so this is my next version. At this point, we kind of found the camera we were looking for. I try to add in the background as well, because it helps in showing the speed of the camera and the speed at which the character is moving. So it's important. You don't have to be a great modeler. I took this all from Turbo Squid. It was free. I just had to like download it and place it in the file. So it just took like 15 minutes of researching and not a lot of effort. But do it. I think it's important. And in this pass was when Danu said we need to start exploring things that could be a bit more cat-like. You know, we need to add some twitches on the ear or something like that. That's going to make this character feel like it's a tiger. So if you notice, you'll see some more stuff on the ears, maybe a little bit of first pass facial, etc.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
So yeah, you'll see a bunch of different things here. I tried to add like licking the lips, something that felt more cat-like. Over here as well, this was something that Danu suggested, the twitch on the ear. We tried to add it in here as well on the turn. And this started giving a bit more personality to the character. So yeah, it took a couple of weeks of exploring while trying to get the mechanics right. We already started adding in a few things like trying to get some accents on the head, exploring the dialogue, because we didn't just want to nail the mechanics, but we wanted to not forget that this tiger is going to talk. And then in this pass, the walking was beginning to come into place, but the sitting part, Danu said, is not there yet. So I had to put in some more love. So if you see this pass, you'll see like the sitting has started to fall into place as well. Yeah, so this was kind of close to like almost there with the mechanics. There was still some issues with the what do you say, with the sitting. And then this was the pass where I would say the mechanics were there, and we started phasing out of just looking at the video reference here. There are a couple of things I've noted down. I'm just quickly going to read for meeting pass. Yeah. So I'm going to play this pass first, and then I'm going to talk about it a bit.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
So in this pass, like I said, we got out of the video reference. So we started adding overlaps and like things that happen on the foot plan. So like over here, the head, the way it reacts to, if you see here, the head, when this foot plants down, the head will do a bounce in this direction. So I had to do a pass on different things. One was just the head. Every time the foot plants, how the head will react to that planting. Then a full pass on just breathing, correcting the breathing that happens. Also with the head, we also did a pass on making sure it hit the accents of the dialogue, like it sold the accents. What's important is, Danu taught me, is that the accent shouldn't necessarily be on the right on the word. It's important to sell it slightly off the word, because it's a creature, and it's not necessary that every time you say some important word, the character does a really strong accent there. It's it feels more natural if you just, you know, you have accents, but it's not hitting one-to-one with all of these peaks, you know. So we did a pass on that. It was also a pass on the breathing to start feeling more organic. And then we started adding a few details, like, for example, right here, when this foot plants down, in the video reference, it just plants and it slides. But if you see now, there's a bit of a bounce. It's like boom, 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 and then it comes to a stop. So these were little things that were important for the mechanics, but it was outside of the video reference completely. At this point, we wouldn't see these things if we watch the video reference.
Can
So
you
this was the
can you
point
explain
where,
them, Ryan? Sorry to break. Can you explain the breathing
yeah.
parts of it? Which was very easy when you said it, but I see like you can elaborate on that one if you want.
Yeah. So I was actually going to talk about it a bit more with the dialogue line, with the anticipation part. But so if you see here the character, he says, do you want to take a leap of faith? So it's like, do you want to take a leap of, he's breathing in, you can see the air getting filled in his belly, in his lungs. And then when he says faith, you can see that his mouth opens up big. It's like a big exhaling. So he's like, do you want to take a leap of faith? It's like breathing in. And then when you say faith, you're accenting that word and you're also letting out that air. What is important is when you're doing the dialogue, if you see here, he's not yet started talking, but he's already opening his mouth. And what Danu taught me is that it's important to anticipate the line. So audience, when they're watching, they're prepared. They know that this character is going to say something. So it's like, do you want to? It's a bit of opening the mouth, a little breath starts taking in, and then you start saying your line. And you will see that right from the mouth opening, and it goes all the way right into the back. So one thing was, if I started animating something on the head or the face, it was a hierarchy. There was like, I then had to add something subtle on the chest, then that would affect this body part here and the belly a bit. And then finally, it would very slightly even influence the butt. But there was no point where I could make a change on the head without making small changes on the rest of the body. So keep that in mind, especially when you do weight shifts. Like, for example, the foot's going to plant here. The head is going to react to that planting. The chest is going to go to this side, and then it's going to come back and settle. There's going to be some jiggle on the belly, left and right, and that jiggle is also, you will feel a little bit of vibration on the hip at the back. All of that coming from the weight of this one foot plant. So it's all connected.
Good one.
If one thing Danu will keep repeating is, it's all connected. It's all connected. I'm not seeing the connection. You need to connect it.
I think this is one of the answer for Michael was asking question before, why it feels so real, because we go depth, like, into this level where every leg plant and foot plant have a reaction on the body, and it has to be that living, breathing creature thing. Before you say the line, before I talk something, I'm anticipating, right? So that's like something not on the dialogue. Oh, just open and say it and close it. So you're going to say something like, this is probably one of the deepest, answer for your question, like, going in depth actually. Thanks, Ryan.
Understood. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Danu.
No worries. And it doesn't just end there, but I will go into it a bit more into polishing, because with the weight shifts and the foot plants comes the jiggles and the toes and this little toe and the effect on the tail. But that comes more in the polishing pass, which I'm going to go into next. I hope everything's clear. If anybody has a question or something, you can just interrupt me, and I'm happy to answer it. So yeah, how do I open this?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, okay, press play. So this is the polishing and the facial pass. In this point, we were just going all for details, from
Whatever.
muscle jiggles to adding the facial accents to making sure we don't have any dead pixels anywhere. There has to be no body part that looked dead to when we played this animation. And we started adding more subtle things into the animation. I'm also going to talk a bit about facial, but let's watch this pass first.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
Hope it playing well for all of you. If not, there I just dropped the link there. You can actually go check in Vimeo. That you can see juicy parts of it, like what we're talking about.
Yeah,
polishing.
So in this pass, we started doing focusing more on facial and the jiggles on the body over here. So if you watch, you see right from this first foot plant right here, when he plants, you'll see this going up and then coming down a bit, and one thing Danu taught me is important is like jiggle. It needs to. So you have one. It doesn't need to keep going like this, like this, like this. It needs to one big one, and then it like tones down into maybe slightly smaller, and then you just need to feel that jiggle, but not notice it like whoa, so it was important because every time I did a jiggle, it was like boom, like something like that, and it was important to understand that it just needs to bounce and come subtly to a stop. So we started adding the jiggles on the belly, on the feet plants, over here. When this foot plants, there's a little bit of like boom here. Also, you will notice on the jaw, every time the foot plants, the jaw here, it will jiggle. This mouth part here, it's gonna jiggle. There's always some subtle movement that's happening, and you're not gonna get this for free. You have to go in there and keep it. And if you don't do it, Danu will make sure you do.
I think that's one of the main things about, we should know the, reactions on the body. I mean, how much it's going to affect on the main immediate controls and that mass of the muscle also, right? If really thin muscle like for lip, it's going to react differently. If it's going to be like arms, they're going to react differently. That's one thing I want to push everybody to the limits so that they can understand very nicely. But thanks, man. Really good details, man. I love that. I really love the shot.
No worries. It's all you.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Your sitting animation, like that part timing is really awesome. Can you put some light on that? I can discuss about that sitting part.
Yeah. I'll go into that as well. So if you see now, for example, on this foot plant, first the toes react, then this toe reacts, then you will see the jiggles here, then you can already see the jaw is a bit looking to the right because the impact is already starting on the jaw. And you will also see as I go down, if you see in one frame, if I draw here, it's over here, the mouth, and then I draw here and it's a little bit lower. It's because this is also beginning to jiggle. So all of that happening from just this one foot plant. And like Danu said, I think that answers Michael's question. How you get that organicness is to remember the hierarchy. If it's starting here, it's going to go all the way up right into the face and it's going to react, and that's what makes it look natural. So we did this for every single foot plant. For anywhere the foot planted, we needed to see what's going to move from that foot plant, and then we animated that.
By the way, copy paste doesn't work, huh?
Sorry?
By the way, copy paste doesn't work there.
Sorry to interrupt you. I have one question in this. Are you planning the foot plan or locking the foot plan in some process and some particular, in the blocking or in some area in that, so that you won't be changing after that, so that people can build on that one? Or
answering your question about that. Sorry, did I interrupt you? Did you have anything more to the question?
No. That's a question.
Okay.
Thanks.
So one thing is the most important thing is, like I said, we sort of nailed the mechanics down in the blocking. Like we didn't go into this polishing level of details till Danu said, Ryan, your mechanics are kind of there now, And there were multiple times when he said, okay, this foot, It could be to the right more, or we could bring it back a bit to the left to find that proper pose. If you see now, like there's a good balance. There was some moments where this foot was a bit inside here, and it was just not balanced properly. So this is where I used a bit of my knowledge from games, but it's not just from games. I'm sure a lot of animators use it. Don't try to do everything on your base layer. I tend to use layers. It is something different animators approach differently. But the thing was, I'd already made my animation proper of the foot plan. So, it was already working. It was just not balanced properly. So for me, if Danu said, okay, this foot needs to move a bit to the left, if I had base layer and then I have layer 1, it just took me 2 keys, one just before the plant, and I had to just move with the second key, like move the foot to the left. So I'm going from, say over here, the foot was okay, but now Danu wants me to plant a bit to the left. I have a second key over here where the foot is a bit to the left. So layers really help me a lot, especially on the weight shifts. Danu would say the weight needs to go a bit to the right and then come back to the left. I would just do it on a layer, one key, it goes to the right a bit, and then subtle, come back to the left, 3 keys done on a layer. It was very easy for me to address his notes by working on layers. Another thing I do is I don't put jiggles on my base layer. I just make a separate layer called jiggles, and those jiggle controls only work on the jiggle layer. So if at any point I want to turn off my jiggles, I can just mute that layer, and we can see if the mechanics are already working, because jiggles is like icing on the cake. So you need to have the first base pass already working well.
Yes.
And then, okay, so I'm going to show the next pass. Oh, I think I'm missing one pass here, but tidying up the timing on the face, toe pass. This one, okay.
Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone? Do you want to take a leap of faith or become an old man filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
All right. So in this pass, we went one step further. What we needed was, with the breathing, we needed to feel the breathing in this part. And like I said, Danu doesn't want to see dead pixels anywhere. So this is the stage where he starts looking like anything feels like it's not feeling animated. We need to start animating it and start. So the same concept as we did for the breathing, when the chest, when the air gets filled here, I would move these controls in. And fortunately, I had many controls here. And this was so important because when the chest was, when the air was going in, we could feel the contraction here. So do you want to take a leap of faith? You feel it like the chest opening up. And so if you see here, you can see like, boom, it's all on faith. It's all the air is releasing. So in this stage, we were just doing a pass on nailing this here. Also, we were fixing the accents on the eyebrows. So what Nanu told me was, do you want to take a leap of, each line, it had to, wait, I need to play to see the accents one. Okay, so on or become an old man, he wanted to show the progression of the dialogue. So we went from or become an old man. So, it was or become an old man. So it was in 3 stages that we kept lifting the eyebrows there, but there were 3 different accents. So raise a bit, hold, raise a bit, hold, and then man is when the face really like, it's like squash and stretch, you know. So do you want to take a leap of faith, you know, like squash, stretch, and that is what is giving the organicness. And the way I approach the face is I didn't use video reference. I use the same principles as you would use to animate a human face. So basically, if your mouth starts moving, these edges start taking influence on the cheeks, and then the cheeks to the brows, the cheeks to the lids. I mean, not the brows. And of course, your brows are also having an influence on the upper lids. And then when your brows move, it's not just your brows moving, but I'm bald, so it's easy to see, but the skin is moving all the way till the top of your head here. So we started getting the accents on the brows correct. And then, so if the brows went up, I had to animate controls all the way from the brows going up, 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 up. Same thing, follow a hierarchy. If you move this, then this starts moving, then this starts moving, then this starts moving. Same thing, if this moves, then this moves, then this moves, then this moves. One thing that's, also the nose also moves. This part will move up and down. Each time, what I did was I didn't shoot video reference, but I would feel what is happening in my face. So I would try to do like extreme poses with my face, and I would try to feel what is moving. If my nostrils were flaring, I would just subtly touch my nose, you know, to feel like, do you want to take a leap of faith? So what Danu said is we need to animate the nose, and then on faith, if all the air is releasing, your nostrils have to flare up. So faith, and then I had to make the like, boom, nose opens up a bit, you know. So there were so many little things we had to keep animating, and it's all on you to do that, of course. Also, like when you say faith, it's such a big word that you also have to, it's not just jiggles from the foot plants, but also from the word. The word is such a big word, like faith, you know, you open your mouth so big that it will still have some influence on the jaw and this fleshy part here. So yeah, like I said, I didn't shoot video reference, but I followed the same principles. And remember, even when you do a hierarchy, there's one thing I wanted to mention is, I animated, if I was moving this part, I would move all these parts on the same key. After it was in place, I would offset it, but don't, when you offset it, remember that even when you're moving this part, by offsetting, things start like a few frames later, but you will still have some dead moments. So don't just offset, but offset and still add some like ease in and ease out, because the moment this part starts moving, your cheeks are already moving as well. Those muscles are already influenced, but it's just that it's a bit less. And then once this part reaches an extreme point, then it pushes this a bit further. So don't have any dead movements. Don't just think offsetting the keys is enough. Try to create ease in and ease out, so that, you know, there's that fleshiness and no dead moments. And another thing is,
thanks, man. That's a really in-depth. Showing the things. Basically, it's a really good one. These are the subtleties where you don't see in a broad strokes, but you can feel them. You don't see them, but you can feel them. That is something, you know, we go that extra mile to add on to the, you know, creator. Of course, an animator has to support as well. You know, I can keep on going and giving comments, but as soon as, you know, they are realizing that they're really enjoying it. Now, when Ryan was actually explaining to me, like, you know, to everybody, I'm like, oh, actually, Ryan, listen to me, you know. Thanks, man.
Yeah. I hope I'm not just selling off all your trade secrets right here
No. There is no trade secrets. It absolutely has to go to everybody, and everybody should know. I mean, they don't have to join CAW, but these things are really valuable for them when they're animating, right? So that's how we're gonna improve the community. But yeah, man, thanks for sharing. But the good part for me is like you actually took everything on board. Not really like ignoring few or and end of the day,
Yeah.
I felt so good right now listening from your mouth that you actually picked up all of them, and it's all shown in your work. You're not just saying it. And everybody gives you comment that the organicness, and Abhishek was just so juicy, man. I watched it 10 15 times straight away. I skipped my beats. I'm like, that's so good, compliment to get that. And Michael was asking like, why is it so organic in your stuff, but these are the work goes back into behind the scenes and makes it so juicy, man. Thanks, Ryan. Good job, man.
A good student.
And one thing I want to just mention is I'm showing the framing like this. Danu used to feedback my facial like this. So he's looking, he's like, Ryan, if you see this, it needs to move here. Sometimes I'm like, I can't even, I can't even tell the difference. But then I would make the change, and then I'd be like, that makes sense. So every time we made an accent on the brow, he would be like, you see this? It needs to move from here. It needs to move here. And I'm like, okay, is anybody going to notice that? But then I would do it, and you could really tell the difference from even from far. So, and one more thing was I would very easily forget about the years. I'm like, okay, I added something on the years, it's enough. But every time this move, Danu would say, now go and add some subtle movement on the years, because all the movements that are happening here eventually influence the year as well. And I forgot to talk about it earlier, but I had to do one pass just on the years, that every time we said something, the years will move slightly. Either it'll go up, it'll come down. It's very subtle, but it's there. So
Talk about
yeah,
that single ear twitch. If you can shed some
yeah. Oh yeah. About the
that is
Prasad,
so
I will
juicy,
get to
man.
you.
That is so juicy. I remember
Yeah.
like when we adding that one, it was so artificial, and then it just blended really so organically well. Yeah, if you can,
Yeah. So this I'm just gonna mute this. This year Twitch, I think, is something. It was completely from it's Danu's creativity. I give him 100 credit there. But it helped sell the whole feeling of being a leopard so much. And in terms of animation, I had to first do the ear twitch. I obviously found some reference for a leopard of a leopard twitching its ear. But if you notice, if I play it frame by frame, you will see when it twitches, it influences this part, and then this part influences the eye becomes a bit smaller, and when the eye is becoming smaller, it's even pulling this part up. So if you see, if I all of this is moving at the same, it's all getting influenced because of that twitch. And then at the same time, simultaneously, that twitch of the ear is happening so fast, it's so powerful that it's also influencing the muscles on this ear and a little bit over here. So if I just keep like frame through, you will see, boom, all of these things here are moving. It's so subtle, but you'll see a little bit of boom. Not boom, that's a bit big, but a subtle twitch over there as well. And from frame here 160 all the way till maybe 164 or 165, you're still feeling the settle on the muscles all over there. This is something you will only see from framing through and Danu's weekly feedback. You will only realize these things from that. But yeah, this is all the things I really got from every week of like polishing. Was a new learning experience for me. And then now I will come to what I would say is the approved pass. But I must warn y'all, if you'll join CAW, when Danu says approved, it's not yet there. If he says approved, it means you probably have like 5 to 10% of work more to put into that. He's saying it's getting close to approved. So yeah, he's just giving you hope and motivation so that you hang in there. It's like it's approved, it's approved. But you know what? It will look better if you do this. But you know, when you're so close, you don't want to give up. You just want to go all the way there. At this point, we started doing. So I missed out one video. I don't know where it went. I think I may have deleted it by mistake. But we did one full pass just on the tail, like from beginning to end. I wouldn't say one full pass. I would say 10 passes, but I'm trying to like cut it short here. So we did a pass on the tail, making sure the spacing. Every time there was a foot plant, you see here the leg plants, and how it's going to influence the tail. So the tail gets pulled inside a bit, like this hip is going up, and so the tail gets pulled in a bit. And then when this drop is happening, the tail gets thrown up. There was so many things we had to take into consideration with the tail, especially because this was going up, this was going down, there was a foot plant here, the tail coming in, the tail going out, how it's going to overlap. We even drew like dots. Danu drew dots to check the spacing. So there were points where the spacing was just getting stuck. So we really had to track everything to make sure. There were points when my hips were going forward, but my tail was getting stuck. So if we drew dots, it was too close to each other, and Danu would say, no, if the hips are moving so much forward, the tail needs to be moving a bit further, you know. So this was some hard work into that tail.
I remember it was like coming back and like yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so also here when this foot is going down, the tail is going in that direction, then it's gonna swing back. And then here it's gonna overlap. So it overlaps, it goes to that side, then it comes back out, again it starts overlapping, and then it goes sort of like this, you know, it comes and then it comes to a stop. Also, we try to add a little bit of personality here, so a little bit of tail wagging, because it was adding to the dialogue. You know, it was not getting distracting, but it was adding something to the dialogue as well. So a little bit of tail movement there, nothing too crazy, and then back into the mechanics of the sitting.
Oh, Prasad,
I will try to talk
about the sitting, Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah, I will try to talk a little bit about the sitting. It was, the main thing was this was the main first part that which happens in the sitting, because this starts going down first, and then we had to understand how it influenced this part. So this part, basically, first thing is the weight. Before the tiger can move this part, the weight of the tiger should first shift onto the chest. So he comes a bit forward, his feet have to hold all of his weight. It comes a bit forward, it goes a bit to this side. And that's when it allows the tiger to start. Also, before this foot comes up, so first the weight is on this part of the body. Then a little bit the weight shifts onto this leg as well, because the tiger is going to lift up this leg. So once all the weights are in place, then the tiger, first he plants this foot. If you see here, this is not yet coming down. It's going to get planted. Now, as soon as it plants, then this starts coming down. So once this starts coming down, then you will notice that it starts pulling on this part of the body. So the chest starts getting pulled, and then the head starts getting pulled. And those were the main things. It took a little bit of time to get that correct. And once it really hit the ground, that's when this part starts going down. So till then, it's holding the weight here. And while this part starts going down, there's still some drag on the head and the face. It's still trying to hold its place. And then as the chest starts going down and shoulders, and then the head follows through. So this took me some time to nail it down, but Prasad, I hope that answers your question. And then another thing, this was a very important part, because as the chest was coming down, if you see here, this foot plants and then boom, chest goes a little bit to the left. Because when the chest goes to the left, the weight is now on this paw, and only after the weight is on this paw can this paw come up. So everything in mechanics is foot plant, foot plant, foot plant. The weight will shift, then you can lift the leg. Then you can plant. When you plant, all of the things above start getting influenced. So this was the approach we took for the sitting down, is just go leg by leg and understand when to shift to the left, shift to the right, what's going to happen, what is influencing what. Of course, I watched the video reference also a lot. So if you see here now, complete weight here, and now this planted here, and then boom, the weight is all now on this leg, and so the tiger can now lift this leg and come to rest. And even as he plants this leg here on the left, you will see the chest starts coming back. And even when the chest is settling, don't forget about this part. It's all getting influenced. There has to be some movement here. Depending on which side this is going to get influenced. This is going to do something. There's going to be something here. All connected. I think I've said that a million times now. So, yeah. So
Ryan,
this was my...
Ryan, can you play the reference again?
Yeah, sure.
See, that's how it has to work, right? Creature is like, working like, it's orchestra, the whole body, like what different parts, they don't move separately, like, and that's one of the biggest challenge of the creatures. They have to make sure it work like an orchestra, and, it has to be like quite believable. There should be some sort of movements, but, it's varies from the moment to moment, basically. Getting that a convincing manner is a pain.
Or become an old man, filled with regret, waiting to die alone.
And the thing is, sometimes in your video reference, you won't even see so clearly all of those little weight shifts. And I only learned those things from Danu's weekly feedback, and we even went further than the reference. So some of those weight shifts are a bit more exaggerated. There are a bit more rotations also, because if you see here, the weight is on this leg, but you also got to rotate the chest in that direction. Then when the foot plants this side, then you got to rotate the chest in this direction. It may be subtle, but it's happening. There is rotations. It's happening on all the different axes. You can't just rotate on one axis. It's a bit of everything. And then of course, all the details on the toes. So when the foot plants, we did one pass in the entire animation that was not just the toes reacting to the plant, but every time, if you see now, the weight shifts to the back right now, the toes spread out a bit.
Compression.
Same thing, the weight shifts to the front, toes in the front spread out a bit. And they spread out, and then they'll hold, but then as soon as the weight is lifting off, it's like this, and then coming back, and this is how Danu will show to you in your feedback. You'll act it out like that, like it's pressing onto the ground, and it's like opening up,
Compression,
and then
come back, yeah.
Yeah. So as the leg is lifting up, it's gonna come in together, and then there's some drag also. So make sure if you join the workshop, you record every single one of his feedback sessions, so that I used to watch them 2-3 times before I even started doing the notes. I would watch it again, and then I would say, okay, I think I understood what he's looking for. So yeah, this was our final pass. I would say sort of approved. I'm sure we made a few small changes because we started making one frame tweaks, like fixing the timing, just shifting things 1 frame, 2 frames, making it a bit tighter, like some of the timing was there, but it was a bit floaty and we could just improve, especially on the face, improving the timing by just 1 or 2 frames was making it a bit more quick and a bit more, I don't know, it just felt better, Um, and this face pass, this shot, it's just 30 frames, but we spent like making sure every single thing moved as per the mouth. If this moved, like I said, everything in the hierarchy, it was like go one by one, go right through the entire head and make sure everything moved. So here, when the mouth is going into O, all of this coming down, little bit of influence on the ears. You can see the eyelid getting squashed up a bit there. And also pass on the nose. It's just like making sure even the tongue was working. It hit all the accents of T's and S, making sure that it sold those sounds, So if it was take, Nanu would make sure that I held the tongue there for enough frames because I was so used to like, oh, the tongue will hit the top and that's it. It will make a T sound. But he's like, no, I'm not feeling it. So I would hold the tongue there, Don't let it come back. So if you see here, the tongue it's holding there. It's there so that we can sell the sound a bit stronger. And then finally, with the last few tweaks, we also started just doing like Kedal said, it's important to kind of just do a pass on your rendering. So this was just, I'm going to quickly show, this was just me exploring different lighting angles and stuff. So this was my first render pass, but it was just a test to see what it looks like when I render it. But what happens is I felt like there was a lot of dark shadows here and stuff. So we were not able to see even inside the mouth. So I changed the lighting here. And this, we were able to see a bit of everything. But what was bugging me was these hard shadows. So it was like hard shadows here, hard shadows here. And then I did another pass. I also felt this was a bit too daylight and too bright. So I made that a bit toned down. This was a pass which I was personally happy with. I would have put it on my reel. Shadows were soft. We could see the tongue and the teeth. The eyes were quite clear. We could see all the movements on the body. But this was, Danu doesn't stop at 90%. It has to be 100. And he said, why not add some textures on all of this? And so I spent quite a few days looking for seamless textures. And then this was my final render. I put textures on everything. Over here, it's just, I found an image. So this is the background till here. And then this is just an image at the back. But it definitely made the animation look even better. And I'm happy that Danu pushed me one step further to add textures. So yeah, this is my final pass, guys. And I hope all the information here I've given is of some help. And it motivates you all also to join one of the workshops with Danu.
Ryan, is that when you added depth of field as well?
Yeah, so the depth of field is not faked. I did it in Maya. I also added a little bit of bump mapping to the textures. So if you see here, you can feel it feels a bit more like skin, I would say. I kept it very subtle, but if you have compositing skills and you can do the depth of field in post, I would recommend it because this took me at least 18 minutes per frame because I tried to do it in Maya.
That's okay. 18 minutes.
Yeah. I also don't have a great. The
I
only
know you
thing
are
with
new.
Maya,
Yeah.
Thanks,
the
Ryan.
only
Thanks,
thing
man.
with Maya,
That's a really good one.
no worries.
And anybody have any questions for Ryan now? There's somebody really
Yeah,
interesting questions
there
coming.
is. There's a question that is it okay to deliver dialogue while inhaling because we are always exhaling while talking?
Are we?
That's a good question.
I'm not.
I think it depends on the dialogue, and like you do take a breath in as an anticipation always before you start talking. The thing is, it's like your mouth is opening first, so you start taking the breath in, but you see it a bit later on the belly, like as the air is still going in. But in that time, you've already taken a breath, so you can start talking. It's just that here, if you see, the breath is already being taken. So the air is already filled up. It's just that we are holding that breath, and then on faith, it's like that breath is coming out. So it's not like you're breathing the whole time when you're saying the line. You're taking a breath in as anticipation. Your mouth is opening. You've already started taking in the air, and then you're holding that breath. So like right now, while I'm saying, do you want to I'm holding my breath, and then faith is like, I'm letting go of that. So it's not like the breath is going on during the line. It's like an anticipation for the line. So here, anticipation, and then talk, hold the breath, release.
Some sort of reactions also you can
Correct me if I'm wrong.
say it while inhaling, right? Like, well, I'm just like, still,
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be possible. Yeah, of course you can't deliver big lines. Yeah.
Hey Ryan, one thing I find interesting as well is he's actually not looking at the camera, which actually works pretty well. Like when he's actually saying that line. So did you think about that when you were animating it, and was that a choice that you made or what?
Yeah. So the thing was, I wanted him to talk to someone off screen, not looking at the camera at all, and then so that was the main idea, like someone to his right, he's talking to someone off screen, and then what Danu suggested is that while he's sitting down, it would be nice to be like, okay, look away, get a bit more of the look of the face and the facial. It would also make him seem a bit more like he's connecting a bit with the audience there, but not giving a shit about the person he's talking to. He's focusing more on his sitting down and like a little bit of thought process there, and then in the close up we go back to looking at him. So it also gave this feeling of like he's looking, he's interested, then he gets out of it, he's sitting down, and then he by that last look back, we were trying to get a bit more of a like
Continue, right?
Yeah. So what we were trying to get was like he looks away, and then when he looks back, it feels a bit more intense. Like a bit more menacing, or I don't know what the right word is, but it was just to get that pause and a change in scene. So looking away, and then look back, a bit more intense.
He's kind of a don't care. That was one of the thing we struggled for like 2 weeks, like trying to find different ideas. Does he has to keep on constantly looking at him, or he said his line, it's your problem now. I said it like, you still listening me, or you're going to take the thing on board. He just gives a last glance while he's saying it. So he actually mentioned like, do you really want to die there? It's up to you, man. Like I said it, but it's kind of that kind of attitude. So yeah.
I once heard a quote of a anime. I can't remember which anime it was, but he said, don't animate what someone's saying, animate what they're thinking or feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really comes across in your piece. That's great.
Sweet, man.
Thanks, Gail.
Ryan, how important is the dialogue selection? Is it possible to make a tiger talk in a comical voice and make it as convincing with good body mechanics?
it depends on the shot and the style of animation you're going for. I would say if you're going for something very comical, you need to sell your animation style to go with that voice. If you try to
Right.
do super realistic body mechanics and do a very comical dialogue, it may not go together. Maybe it will. It all depends on the dialogue. For me, I found the dialogue already, and I said like this dialogue sounds serious. It can go with realistic body mechanics. And what was happening with this dialogue is it was a dialogue that I was seeing always as a close up. So if I imagined it in my head as a human, I was not able to see someone in like a mid shot, like talking with hand gestures and stuff. I could only see it
Right.
as like a juicy human face talking, you know. So I said this is perfect to do it on a creature, because a creature is not going to gesture. He's going to walk, he's going to sit, he's going to maybe this dialogue, I didn't even need to have him walking. He could be just sitting on a rock, but it would sell because creatures, when they talk, it's all in the face, it's all in the head, it's all in the ears. And that is why I picked this dialogue. But I would say if you're doing something a bit more comical, it depends on the style of the character. So maybe even a more stylized character would look better. So you could maybe have realistic animation, but then if this character looks a bit stylized or comical, it will sell the dialogue already, because the look of the character is helping in that. So it's a bit of everything, like the style of the character, your animation style, and the voice that the dialogue has.
Yeah, there's
Some more
2-3 more
questions.
questions for you.
Okay, sure.
So
Yeah, can you
someone called Jas said was asking a question about sitting.
yeah, especially the spacing between COG and chest while he was sitting.
The COG and the chest. The COG. I'm gonna share my screen again just so that I can maybe draw a bit and explain. Sure. But in sitting, I will be honest. So this character had one main control here, like this, which was the COG control. For the sitting part, I animated the COG till the character reached here. After the character reached here, I did not, and this control did not get animated anymore. It stayed there. It had no animation from this point. Yeah. The only things that got animated were the butt control and then the chest control and all these in-between controls that had to move. So everything here was working independently. So this and then this in-betweens and this part, but the COG had no spacing, no movement, nothing there. I hope that answers your question, just because
super clean animation. There is no counter animation. There is no fighting with animation between the controls. Beautiful, Ryan. Very good.
Because the thing is, you want independent influence over each of these controls. Whereas if you're moving the COG, then all of these controls are moving together, and then you don't have control. So when you're doing something like sitting or lying down, leave the COG out completely.
Good one, Ryan. Really good one.
That's a good point, definitely.
Oh, there's another question as well. Somebody's asking.
Someone said, did you record yourself for the dialogue part and also add some character to it?
So I did not record myself for the dialogue part. The reason being that I did not want to try and copy human shapes on the character, because I've noticed that when I'm looking at video reference, then I'm trying to create sometimes the same shapes, but the creature has such a different mouth. And if you try to copy human shapes, you're going to break that creature. So I would just play with the shapes myself, and say the dialogue, like, do you like to understand where those O's and R's are coming in, but I did not record myself for the dialogue at all.
But that's a good one, Ryan. You actually lived with the dialogue for almost like 1.5 months, 2 months, even before joining, like, I don't know how long you are, but that 1 month while you're finding reference, you know what you exactly need. And you have already playing, like, that's how, see, I mean, if you are just started like today, then probably you might need acting and stuff. If you're living with the dialogue for longer, then probably it's all in your head, which is really good thing as well. Like you said, the physicalities doesn't support. So you might end up, copying exactly the shapes. It might not really work. And that's why I think when you're living with the dialogue for so long time, so that's how you actually really successful on portraying the whole feeling of it. Like Kettle mentioned there, you could actually see the character thinking, not just saying it, which is really, that's how you can achieve that one, by just, let the dialogue sink into you literally, so that your acting choices are better. Otherwise, you're just saying the line, not thinking the line, not feeling the line, so yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of goes to a question from Prasad, who says, have you studied dialogue ref in movies like Lion King or Jungle Book? If yes, does that help you?
I did not, because I did not. I was scared that by watching these movies, I will start copying, and I don't want to do that. And I counted on Danu's experience of having worked on these films, that he will guide me in that direction. So I have watched these movies. Don't get me wrong. I have seen these movies, and the whole thought of making a talking creature came from the fact that there were so many movies coming out with talking creatures, but I did not use any of them as a reference because I was afraid that I would try to copy. And I'm not copying from something realistic. I'm copying from another animator's interpretation of what that animator has already seen. So I try to avoid that completely, because it's very easy to look at something and be like, oh, they did it so well, so why shouldn't I do the same? So I stayed away from it. Even when there were moments that I was stuck, I did not look at the movies, because I personally wanted to figure it out myself. So I would tell Danu, I'm like, hey, I'm stuck. What do you think? I feel like this part is not working out. What do you suggest? And then I would take his guidance as like, okay, that is the right path. And to be honest, just seeing the progress every week with working with Danu, you just have to close your eyes and trust what he says, and it's going to go in the right direction. And even if it doesn't go for some reason, he's not going to let you go. He's going to be like, don't worry, we got this. We're going to figure it out. So
that's a good one, Ryan. You actually didn't get influenced by those ones, because already there. And, that is very true. The more you watch, the more you're going to, get injected to your blood, and, it's going to think, you're going to think like them. Same animation, same style. Yeah, which is good, actually. You went completely away from that, and you got your own style. Even the look and feel of it also have very different feel to it. Like, you actually put your thought process behind it, your look and feel to it, even the textures, even the background. It got a separate character to it, which is really good. Actually, it really worked well.
So Danu, just on that point, obviously you animated Shere Khan on Jungle Book, right?
Yeah.
So when you were doing dialogue scenes for that on a film, what did you do as well?
Yeah, basically, mainly, I actually have a demo as well, which I'm going to release soon for everybody. So picking up a dialogue and, like Ryan, let it sink in, let it go. Like I would watch whole day. So I would listen whole day while I was working on other shots. It's just listening like a music. It just goes into my brain, and I can create the feel and mood of it, like how it would look like. And I would try to download some reference, pick some of them, and make sure that they are, if they are really like serious dialogues. So you don't need to have big moves, bear eating and catching food, so those things will not work. So it got to be subtle moves where he's like, very, very subtle, very areas where you don't have a big covering, space. Basically, it has to be really in a very small space area where you're just looking around. So that dialogue really gels well with that. I make sure that I take that kind of reference, at least 10, 15, and I put them in RV or VLC, play with the sound. I just watch it for a half a day, because the planning is very important to me. If I'm really convinced with that kind of acting, and it really sells the point, like, maybe a best bit of from this reference, another bit from other reference, I would add them, put them together, and it's just a blink of one reference and a bit of head turns from other reference. I would blend them together, and I would play that for a whole afternoon, and I watch it myself, and then I submit that one, to them, and I make sure that those references are not really like, too much of looking around or hitting the accents. I make sure that we skip some accents, because, you don't get animal behavior across when you keep on hitting the accent, because they don't talk, right? So just like, I would try to take advantage of their head turns and look at, and I would retime it for my dialogue, so that it suits well and it sits within the creature move. Basically, it's bear like a bear, I know, Sher Khan like a Sher Khan. So they doesn't really like, I would offset the whole reference towards my dialogue, where it's like, he says some line, and accents are kind of mildly hits there, but and it leads to something else, like to add some that extra bit of a creature-ish behavior. So I would work on the planning for at least a day or two on just to get that behavior right. Once you can show that convincing reference, I think it's your half of the task is done. What 90% of task is done. It's just animating. Everybody knows animation. But planning is really, really important. And I think I would show at least the 6-7 references to my soup, and hey, what do you think? Like, that is good. That is good. Probably let's put them together. After all, I did myself editing as well. And if there is some new input comes in, oh, maybe I didn't see this one, let me put that. And I'll show my idea and his own idea, and we sit down and discuss, like, that one is good, let's go for, the final one. End of the day, it's their movie. So I need to, like, listen to them as well, right? If the workshop like this, obviously it's mine, and, it's yours, so you can do your own acting choices. But yeah, that's how I pick up reference mainly. But the movie like Jungle Book, where there was Bill Murray was speaking, and we did something different, and then Veta guys did something different. Suddenly John Favreau was, oh, that is really good. Like, can we follow it? Like, oh, that is slightly too stylized and exaggerated. Like, how can we dial it down now? Because we already did like 4 or 5 sequences. So it's like not a short note. It's like a sequence note, basically. The whole acting changes. We were like, oh shit, like, And then after a while, we're working down the line, and John Favreau was like, what, this is not really working. Let's put. I'll give some reference. So he acted it out for us, and he sent it us. We were like, oh shit, like, okay, now I need to, like, I can't delete the shot. I can reanimate the shot, because we don't have time. We need to dial it down. We need to, like, amp it a little bit. And that's when they're layering the animation of, bit more Bill Murray, more like Bear, and then bit of a John Favreau. That was like, yeah, a mixture of everything. But yeah, it was really fun learning, to be honest. It's like, when you put into the situation, that's when the real learning comes out of you. Like, you go that, that you break your head, like, how can I figure this out, So that's like, new points for your workflow. Like, okay, there's like some new points for me to learn from that experience. But yeah.
Nice.
It's not easy road, but yeah, it's enjoyable, Yeah.
There was a question for Ryan that said, did you do any blocking pass in step?
No, I didn't work in step at all. Everything in spline from the beginning.
Yeah, even I can't compute the blocking pass in my brain. When I see first class, somebody brings the blocking pass, I'm like, oh, my brain hurts. I can't see that. Okay, see you next week. Cool. Oh, there is a question for me. Dhanusa, can you please differentiate between the body mechanics of human and creature key points? Major difference. Yeah. Human have only like, bipedal, right? So just like only one hip. So you don't need to worry, because chest is not reacting to the, ground, right? So chest is based on the hip movement. So yeah, that's like one less thing to worry. But if it's creature, you got your chest, you got your hip, and then you got your head. So you got to like, align these 3 things for your leg plants and, hip reactions for that. It just changes the whole, wave of action. If it is a bipedal, probably I might, get away with a bit of overlaps and stuff. But if it is a creature, it got to follow through that, wherever the terrain it's walking, it got to be parallel to the terrain. And there's a lot more things to worry there, but yeah, that is the main point I would take, like, where your legs are planted, what kind of a terrain they are, and how they actually, make the creature move, and the hip reactions and reactions of the chest and the head has to go with those legs. So that's like one main thing everybody misses. They just animate one thing and then try to make others as a response, but it's other way around, yeah, there's a lot of more things to worry, right? It's like it has to work like an orchestra, not like, individual parts are moving on their own. So that's the biggest challenge, which bipedal characters doesn't have.
And there was one more question for you, Ryan. How much time you spent for that type of quality shot?
I I don't have an ideal amount of time because I took some breaks also in the middle because I had some stuff. But I would say to nail down all the mechanics and have a full first pass on facial with some jiggles and stuff, I took about 3 months, I would say, working, in my time after work and on the weekends. And then maybe it took us another month to add in all those finer details and all the polishing. Sometimes it might have taken a bit longer than that also, but it was just pushing and pushing for like 100% of, like, it had to be at a point where Danu couldn't find any more. Actually, he probably could have found more mistakes, but he just let it go at that point. He was like, if I keep pushing, this guy might just...
It's always tricky question, right? Like, because you're not working on that full time. So when you're working on it full time, and even then, probably Abhishek can answer better, question for that, answer for that, but probably like, because it's not, there is no direction. You started from the scratch, finding the reference.
Yeah.
You follow that, but that's all come into the production, right? But when you go to animation, you just get the idea, you get a scene shot, you do full time, 8 hours a day, and then you finish the shot in 2 weeks. If you could have animated on like that, like everything has given to you, how long do you think you can take it? There's like two different answers for that, right?
I think that's a key point, right? Because when I've done other animation courses, they will give you, like, they'll say this is 10 weeks, and your start date is here and your end date is here, right? Now, obviously, Danny, you have a set time for the course, obviously, but at the same time, you're flexible. So it's not just with other courses that I've done anyway. The time is the time. Once you come out of that, it's over. Goodbye. See you later. Maybe you can email me once or twice or whatever, and I might get back to you. But that's it. It wasn't like that with Danny. And so when you say how much time goes into a shot, if you're working full time or whatever, and myself, as I said, I have a family, like all I could do is maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, if that, right? And that's with like a screaming kid sometimes as well, or my wife needing something or whatever, as opposed to someone who may be able to put 5 hours in a day or whatever. So it's going to vary for everyone. And Danny's very flexible where that's concerned. If you need it, because even me, I took a break off in mine for about, I got so busy at work with the hours I was doing, I had to take a break from it. And I mailed you, Daniel. I was like, listen, I can't come to class for about 3 weeks or whatever. And you were like, yeah, fine, it's cool. But when I was a part of another course, it's like you have to do that time. And if you miss it, you miss it. But course very flexible like that.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, that's one thing, right? But that's one thing. Like, we always have some issues. Like, life is never easy for everybody. Like, always throws out, challenges at us, but it's just that we can't just give up that why we started this to do some really cool stuff. Of course, like we got to push our foot down on our timings and maintain, but there are some times where you can't really manage. But yeah, if I don't be flexible, then you're going to end up with some bad experience, and that's not going to really motivate anybody, right? So yeah, I'm happy to do that, but again so, and again, if it is really, and sometimes the problem with that is only one problem is you lose momentum. If you lose momentum, that's gonna really put you in a bad shape. So as long as you're not losing momentum, you're still in the same love, when you took the break. I'm really happy to see offliners. I can give you offline review, but at least sit 1 hour a day and just keep, at least like add some little bit of details. I'm really happy that, you are in a momentum. That's what I wanted to see. I'm really happy. Once you lose the momentum, there is a bit of a danger of that, but yeah, otherwise I'm really happy to be flexible.